Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Chat. I hope everyone had a great week. I hope you're having a great weekend. I hope you're enjoying this summer weather. We are officially in the season of summer now as a result of yesterday. I love summertime. I don't spend a lot of time outside because of allergies, and of course I don't like bugs and things of that nature. But I am enjoying the weather. You know, I love the sunshine. It makes you feel good all over. And of course, we all need vitamin D in our lives. So, you know, if you are not sun sensitive, if you don't have allergies, and if you don't mind the bugs, then you definitely need to be outside soaking up, some of this nice sunshine that is out. I did go out today just for a little bit, stood out on my deck, but that was it. I can only take it in little bits. I can't be out there for too long because, like I said, I don't like bugs. Mosquitoes love me. I hate them. So there we go. So anyway, let's move on to today's show. The title of today's show is Don't Box Me In, and the topic is writing in other genres. All right. So how many times have we read about actors who are stereotyped and can only portray one type of role, or they can only land one type of role? You know, you watch movies all the time and you see some of the same actors performing the same roles over and over and over again. You know, it's as if, they can't get work doing something outside of that box. You know, and I like to see that. I like to see, the talent doing things that are, just a little bit outside of what you're used to seeing, and I think that's good for them. I think that's good for anyone who is an artist, whether it's a romantic love interest, criminal, or the dumb guy or chick with their heads off in the clouds. We've seen that just too many times, right? Well, there has to be an end to that. Because there's nothing wrong with being great at what you do. No one can fault you for having talent. And on the same token, versatility is essential as well. In sports, just for instance, some of the best players in history, they exceeded different sport levels, whether they were basketball players, but they crossed over to baseball and some even football. And I can think of two right off the top of my head. Michael Jordan is one because, we know how magnificent of a basketball player he was. And he also played baseball. And then, of course, Deion Sanders played football, and he crossed over to baseball as well. So I'm like, wow, they were not just contained within that box to play the sport, that they went to college for, that they were drafted for. They were multi-talented, and they could do other things. They could play other sports. And so, we have to start thinking outside of that box so we don't get, just captured in, just stereotyped into doing one thing. And, that's not good on any level. That's just not good. But, real athletes are a great example of someone who didn't allow, anyone to pigeonhole them, limiting their capabilities to only one dynamic based on their first choice of sport. And that is the same for us. Skill is a skill, A specific skill set should never bind anyone simply because they perform well at doing it. You are the only one who is in control of how you broaden your horizons. This is also true for writers. Who says simply because you prefer one genre over another means you can't explore new ones? It's crucial as an artist to discover your talent. You know, you may have the specific talent of writing, you know, doing one thing. I'm just going to throw, romance out there. Now, I have read a lot of authors where romance is their thing. That's what they do best. But then I've also read some of their work where they have sort of like broadened outside. They went outside of the box and they did something else, and it was just as good. And I'm like, great for them. I'm glad to see that. And, sometimes it's like buying shoes. Most of us girls, we love stilettos. I don't love them so much anymore because my feet hurt all the time. So, I've sort of quit the stilettos and moved on to, to a lower shoe. But, we are versatile and therefore not limited to our personal taste. But, into only those, types of shoes, we sample different brands. At least I do. And that consists of colors and comfort levels and all of that. And sometimes, I go a little crazy and I do flats. I don't have a choice now but to do flats because, like I said, my feet hurt all the time. And it probably came from wearing those high heel shoes. They're not good for your feet, not to wear them all the time. They're really not good for your feet. I learned that the hard way. So I'm trying to give you this little tip so you don't do the same thing. But anyway, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid to step outside of the norm and try on something different. And like I say again, the same applies to writing. I'm selective when it comes to my reading material also. I'm a romance writer, which is the foundation of what I write about. And I understand, I'm not limited to this specific genre because I'm convinced I can write historical fiction, young adult, or even horror. I'm a writer, therefore capable of moving outside the romance boundary into new territory. And I've done this before. My newest works haven't been published yet. But, I stepped outside of the box because I started thinking, I was like, okay, so I'm a romance writer, which means I write about, relationships. Okay, so I can still write about relationships and I can still have romance as the foundation, but I can also layer it with other things, such as YA. Okay, so I'm writing YA, which is a different genre, but still it falls within the romance. And then too, I can write one about horror. Okay, so it's scary, but still, it's a romance somewhere in there. So it still falls within that genre too. So it's like crossing over into these different territories, but still, you're not moving too far away from your base. It's just like the sports, they're still athletes, they're still playing sports, but, they sort of layered on, other types of sports. They're just not, typecast to that one sport just because they do it well, and that's, what they do. That's their job, but they can do other things too. And they've proven it. I've given you 2 examples, and there's probably others too that I'm not aware of, but those 2 for sure, that I know about. And so the same thing, it goes, for writing. You can be a writer. If you are a writer, it doesn't mean that just because you prefer something over another, that you can't venture out and do something more, just add to it. And I know, as authors, when we put our work out there to the public, they expect certain things from us. If we write about romance, then that's what they look for from us. And sometimes it's okay to shock them with something else, show them that you're versatile, that you can do something else, because just like you put your heart into what you love, and I always said, write about what you know, write about what you love. And, but it's okay to add on to those things, just take it a little bit different, go outside of that box and, venture into territory that you've never tread in before. It's good for you. It's a good exercise for you. It's a good exercise for your brain, and for your craft to implement different things, different genres, different stories, Like I said, it just broadens your horizon. We talked about broadening your horizons. I think it was last week, and you should do that. It's good for you. Whether you're going to publish it or not. I always say that sometimes, it's a good training instrument to test things, to test your ability, and then, once you get it done, you can let others read it, to see how they like it. And if they like it, and just don't let one person read it, let several people read it, and let those people read it who are, maybe, just for example, people who read romance books, or people who read horror, or people who read YA, a mystery or whatever, let them read it and see what they say about it. And so that's a good test, for your writing, to see, if it flows with them, then chances are, it's going to flow with your regular audience as well. So, it's good to think outside of the box and not be boxed in by what people want you to do. We had a very good discussion last Saturday with my guest, and Bunny was her name, and I so enjoyed talking with her, and she just had so much information. And again, I say that she shared a few things that I hadn't even considered myself. So it was a lot of food for thought within that message that she gave last week. So I'm going to use the things that she spoke about to my advantage as well. I'm like, because I always like learning new things, different things. I don't limit that, because it's like a closed fist. Nothing can get in, nothing can get out. So I try to keep my options open. I always try to keep an open mind about everything, learn as much as I can, because, just because I do a radio show doesn't mean I know everything, because I don't, I'm learning too. And that's one of the reasons why I like having the guests on the show, because they share a lot of information. And just like I want to absorb what they're saying, I also want to share that information with you, because it's important, to those of you who may be aspiring writers, you haven't really decided what you want to do yet, what genre, you want to pursue. So that's why I have the guest on, to talk about the things that they do, all the options that are open to you, so you can just jot them down and, look at them at a later date once you make that decision, of what you want to do, because writing is something. It's a job, and I'll just be honest with you. It's a job, and it's not always easy. Creativity is wonderful. It's something that we've been gifted with. But all the time, that creativity doesn't flow, and you really have to work hard for it. But sometimes it's best to wait and let the creativity flow on its own, instead of trying to push it, because when you push it, you usually wind up with stuff that you have to, like, erase and just start all over again, or delete in this case, and start all over again. So, it's just something to think about. And also, while you're thinking about that, remember, don't ever let anyone or anything box you in, because, you are responsible for, how well your career goes and the direction that it takes, by how well you, apply the skill set that you have. It's okay to test the waters, and don't be afraid, and never allow anyone to box you in. All right, folks, so that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this little tidbit of information that I shared with you. I know, I don't do as long of a show as I do when I don't have guests on, but, I don't have a lot to say. I just want to give you these little words of wisdom, and then just move on, to the next week. But anyway, we do have another guest coming to us next week. If you hold on just a second, I will tell you what her name is, so that way you will be prepared next Saturday when I introduce my guest. Let me look at my calendar. Next Saturday, we will have with us Michaela Mills. She will be our guest. So I hope you will tune in for that show, and be prepared to take notes and of the different things that we'll be talking about. But for now, I want to make sure that you stay tuned to the show. So I'll give you the URL so you're able to do that if I have any new listeners out there. And for the regular ones, when you download or you listen to the show live, you can share this information with them. The first one, of course, is to my Spreaker account, and it is https://www.spreaker.com/user/author Vivian E. Moore. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. If you go to my Facebook account, it is https://facebook.com/Vivian E. Moore. You can also look for me on Twitter under God's Property 46, and on Instagram, I am God's Property 51. Also, today's show will be on my blog site, and that is https VivianEmore.blogspot.com. Sorry, I spaced out there for a second. Also, if you weren't fortunate enough to listen to today's live show, you can always listen to the recorded show on iTunes and iHeartRadio. I'm also on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and a couple more that I can't remember right off the top of my head. But anyway, there's a link to all of this. If you go to my Spreaker page, it'll take you to those other links. So tomorrow is worship day. I hope you're planning on going to church. I hope you're planning on taking some family members, some friends, some neighbors, and by all means, take some kids with you. And please tell someone that you love them, because tomorrow is not promised. Today may be the only chance that you get to tell them that. So I love you. I hope you love me back. Until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you and goodbye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.